Okay, so Blinklabs is an open source project or an open source team. And so we also do custom solutions, which is essentially how we fund being able to do open source, right? Makes sense. So who we are is it's me as the CEO of Blinklabs, and then my best friend Andrew Gaffney, who's our lead engineer. And we've kind of been a team for a while now, and we've definitely been involved in a lot of things within the community that people have seen and used, but they may not know who we are. So Andrew, like I said, is a co-founder and our lead developer. He's been developing for over 20 years, at least 15 or 16 different programming languages now. When he was bored, he wrote his own operating system. I mean, like from scratch, bare metal, starting off in assembly and writing stuff in C and things like that, just because. He's an open source contributor, was a contributor to Gentoo Linux, which is where him and I met, and then also as a contributor to Ansible Core. And has experience in global scale operations. He was the principal systems engineer at Box for quite some time. He's worked at Cisco, a lot of other various startups in Silicon Valley. And he's the principal developer for Goroboros library, which is a library for Cardano for being able to write applications in Go. And he's currently acting as a backend developer at Maestro. And well, we can talk a little bit about Maestro in a moment. Myself, as I said, I'm the CEO and founder. I also have 20 years of development experience in very similar number of various languages and things. I have experience in open source governance and compliance. When I was at Gentoo, I not only was a developer for Gentoo Linux, I was also on the Gentoo Council, which was their elected governance body, and then Gentoo Trustee, which is their also elected trustees for the Gentoo Foundation, and which dealt with all of the legal issues, filing all of our tax paperwork, like all of that sort of fun stuff. And I mostly was involved in license compliance and trademark compliance enforcement, that sort of stuff, making sure people were doing things in the right way, not doing stuff in our name, that sort of thing. And was as I said, a developer for Gentoo Linux, but also for CDAP, which was from my previous company, which is a data application platform. So it's a big data application platform written on top of Hadoop. It's now part of Google Cloud. It's Google Cloud Data Fusion. The startup got bought by Google Cloud, but a lot of my previous open source contributions, there's piles of it all in there. I've been recently a developer for the Silk Toad, which is a site that was created by the community of Disco Solaris, and then also Cardano ETF. Previously, I was the chief technical officer for TostiDrop, all the way through mainnet, the entire architecture, all through testnet, building it out, working with the infrastructure providers and the other guys to, the other SPOs to create the essentially distributed way that TostiDrop works. So there's not like a single provider for TostiDrop. There's multiple SPOs, and every SPO kind of like has to agree, right? So it's consensus for us to agree on what TostiDrop is, like what version of TostiDrop we run, all of that sort of stuff, and everyone agrees. And then we, had load balancing and all of that sort of stuff to be able to take people out of rotation and add people in. I was also the SPO for CloudStruct in CloudStruct Cardano staking, the CSCS pool, which we retired back in January, essentially to focus on Blinklabs, and then also Maestro, which I just recently have left for the same reason, is to focus on Blinklabs full time. So one of the things that we have, as I said, we're open source developers. So we have open source projects. Open source projects are the big thing that we're trying to push into the community and offer. So the big one that we have currently is our Ouroboros network protocol written in Golang. So we've taken the language of Cardano on the wire and translated it into Golang so that you can start now building applications that can speak directly on the wire to other Cardano nodes and can build up from there. And so it's all open source, and it was partially funded in Catalyst Fund 9. We asked for funding for some of the work. So the node to client side, so essentially being able to write client applications that talk to a Cardano node locally, is done and was funded by Catalyst Fund 9. There's still a lot of work on like the server side and other things. We also made a Cardano Submit API, and the main purpose of this was to show the usage of our Go libraries and things like that, and to show that you could now write applications that can interface with Cardano without having to write Haskell. I'm sorry, is there a question?
No, I think it was a sentiment that is good.
So we wrote this HTTP service. It works exactly the same as the IOHK Submit API. It supports the same API interface, and we ran it as a freeloaders endpoint for a very, very long time. It's functionally equivalent. And again, it's a very small program and very documented. So the idea is, it can be like an intro. It also was funded partially by Catalyst, and a lot of it was retroactive. We did the work and then asked for funding to say, hey, look, this is what we already delivered. And that seemed to work out pretty well for getting us funding. And we did that with both of our apps. Let's see. We have a bunch of other projects, and I'm not going to go over all of them or anything. The main thing that we do for the community is we have Cardano images for Cardano Node and Cardano DB Sync, and we do them for both ARM and AMD so that they're consistent and published. We work with the Armada Alliance a good bit, and so that is a service that we provide, and we maintain them, and we use them for all kinds of things. It's not just for running stake pools, but that's probably the primary thing that we do that most other people would care about. I've also been working on local Cardano node monitoring service. If you know GLiveView from the guild operators, it's in fact a clone. It's designed to be a clone, but written in Golang, and I've been writing it in public. And by that, I mean, every day that I work on it, I do a pull request and I post a tweet about it, and I try to document what all the changes are that go into it, fairly well, almost down to like every single change, so that, you can follow along and play at home.
Chris, I would have a question to you regarding that language, Golang. Could you tell the audience a little bit more about that language, why it's easier than others?
Yeah, absolutely. So Golang is actually just Go. We call it Golang because Go is impossible to Google. And speaking of Google invented it. So it's a language that came out of Google that is a compiled language, meaning it's not executed at or interpreted at runtime. So you build a binary of it and you're able to pass that along, very much like Haskell, where you build a binary. And it was specifically designed by Google for hosting stuff at Google. So it's high performant in a lot of various areas, especially around I/O, and designed with concurrency out of the box as like a language primitive design. So it makes it extremely easy to write highly concurrent, high throughput, low latency applications for both the web and, just as writing your own protocols, which is like what we did with Ouroboros, is re-implementing the Ouroboros wire protocol because it's not HTTP or anything.
Is it hard to learn?
It's very easy to learn in my mind, and I told you I have lots of programming languages under my belt, so I like Go more than anything else as far as writing it. We brought it into Maestro, like they were using not Go, like a bunch of other stuff. They still use other stuff, but like we brought Go in, and we're using it on top of our own libraries to build some of their internal stuff. And in doing so, they picked up Go very rapidly. We're able to start writing applications. We're able to start adding features to stuff. It's not very hard, to really pick up. It has a fairly easy package management system in that it's GitHub native. Or like Git native. So you can just point it to a GitHub repository as part of your imports, and it will just pull in the stuff from it. Like there's no package manager to deal with or anything like that. It has it essentially built in, which helps a lot, when it comes to writing applications, because you're able to rapidly pull code from other people and incorporate them without having to worry about them packaging it and all of this other stuff.
Okay, cool. And what is it comparable with? What will you say?
So I was trying to describe it just the other day to someone, and I would say it's they tried to make it so that it's familiar to Python developers, but it isn't like Python syntax. It's a little more C-like, but it is very familiar to Python developers in how it feels and how you write it and that sort of thing. Like it's not necessarily object oriented. It is much more, let's say, scripted and more about passing messages and things back and forth. So you use channels for communication between concurrent processes. And like I said, all of that stuff is all built in. So that's one of the main advantages is Python doesn't do multi-threading very well. And they wrote a language that does, right? They're like, we want Python, but it can't be Python. So they went and wrote their own language entirely. And, one of the benefits of doing this is, like I said, it compiles down to single binaries, which makes it easy for redistribution. And the language itself supports all of these different architectures, all of these different platforms, Windows, Mac, ARM, AMD, all of these things. So we provide binaries in all of those by writing our code once. And because Go supports all those things, we don't ever have to, we just build binaries that it produces. And I can write binaries for Windows without even having Windows available to me, because Go can build a Windows binary.
Wow, that's powerful. A question
Sure.
regarding the images. Where do we get those? The Cardano node and the Cardano DB sync? Is that the one from the Armada Alliance?
No. So they're Blinklabs images. They're on Docker Hub. So I can send out, and just a second, I'll send out the link to this, and I have links actually added to the end of this guide just so that we can look at it. But here, let me run through the rest of this real quick, and then we can
sure.
jump.
So I see a few letters down there, and a few.
Yeah. So here's
snaky letters.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I saw a few snaky letters. Do you participated in Snack?
No, that's different. Not that Snack. No, we have a blockchain event notification tool named Snack. And it's very unfortunate, which is why I hit it way down at the bottom, because we had this tool. And
I was going to ask the same question, to be fair.
So we have this tool named Snack, and then 3 weeks later, somebody comes up with, a meme coin, and now we got to rename it or something. But so it's not, it has nothing to do with.
You use it as governance token.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. But no,
there's another one.
So we had talked about Maestro a little bit, and some of the other partners. I decided we could play a game here. And can anybody identify logos?
I know the first three ones.
All right. So anybody want to guess what do we have? This guy, the first one.
That's Maestro.
Yeah, it's Maestro. Right. And then the second one.
That's Toasty Drops, right?
Toasty Drop, right? Yeah. Toasty Drop. This third guy down here in the bottom left.
Razor, that's your turn. Oh, it's Sunny.
Ribbit.
The soak toe.
Yes. And then the bottom right.
What's the last one?
That's the Cardano ETF.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that one. Cardano ETF.
Is that actually ETF in ETF, or is it
It's
something else?
Yes and no. I mean, like it's like a legal ETF, right? But they're operating like in the same way, right? So they're going and having a basket of funds, that they're operating out of, and they're paying out dividends based off of the operating of that funds, if they're trading. So
and the funds are basically Cardano native assets, or
they're all Cardano native assets, yeah. And a lot of it is actually assets that they're claiming from sites like, Silk Toad, Drip Drops, like all of this stuff. So they're claiming all of these tokens with different wallets. They have, and they're tracking all of it, right? And so the funny thing is a lot of these tokens, they do add up, right? Especially if you're claiming over them, and all it takes is some of these tokens, especially with low liquidity, to get traded a couple times and number go up real quick, right? So it makes it easy if you're trading in and out and actively trading on some of them. You can swap out for some of these to ADA.
Chris, a short second. I have a question from Boaz, who's got to leave. He wanted to know if you could share the slides.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Let me do that real fast here.
Sorry, interrupting. Apart from that, I would like to know that first project Chris has been presenting, if it's in that we are presenting the workshop. I could listen that was being taken by the Blinklab is what we are using in the workshop for the CIP.
No. Blinklabs itself is a company.
Good.
Yeah, we're a separate company.
Okay.
So
but here, let me share the link to this presentation.
Chris, how could Boaz reach you if he has a question, or anybody?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Twitter. We have a Discord. I can grab the link to that. But the easiest way to get me is probably on Twitter, which I'm Wolf3102 on Twitter. Give me a second. Let me grab my Discord here.
But this is amazing. When one sees your history, this is just crazy, right? This is really, really impressive what you've done.
Let's see, where do we have? I am trying to find where the invites are here. All right.
And how long have you been here in Cardano? I can
So we started. Here we go. We started the stake pool in August 2021. So we started at probably, like the worst time, right before everything was like $3. Before ADA went to $3, and the point was trying to buy pledge and doing things like that. Money did not go very far. But yeah, so that was when we started, was around August of 2021 was when we actually started participating like in the community.
Okay, that's a little bit of a while, but especially for that not short time in crypto, but in real life, you have done a lot. That's crazy. That's really good. Wow, it's amazing. I've posted the Discord in there already. So that's cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
Sorry, I posted it actually just to.
I would have a question, Chris.
Please stop DMing me. I'm messing with you.
There we go.
So, Chris, given the let's say vast experience you have with different programming languages and different, let's say, parts of the open source community, etc., what would you say brought you and keeps you in the Cardano environment?
Oh wow, that's a good question. So it's definitely, especially on the open source side, like you'll see me on Twitter, especially arguing heavily for open source and the open source side of Cardano, and not necessarily the closed source side. And I like to fight for that stuff. And I see that Cardano has good technology. It has the right ethos, especially at the base layer, right? Of, like decentralized stuff, push the power to the people, give everybody access to these things, right? And, build a collaborative, future operating system for finance and whatever else, right? Because we're talking about decentralized identities, all of these other things, right? So it's more than just finance.
Governance.
You've got phone systems with World Mobile, right? So if this is the future of technology and the way that direction, that things are going, we wanted to be involved in it. And a lot of it really is just for fun. I enjoy it. I think it's fun to solve problems, and there's lots of new problems here to solve.
Okay. Are you based in the US?
Yes.
Can I ask a question that is maybe not so related to your work, but rather to, let's say, the political discussions that are ongoing, with securities and all that, the SEC, etc. So, are you concerned? Are you concerned about the future of platforms like Cardano or other layer 1 solutions?
I'm not going to ever ask anybody for permission. That's my answer.
Okay.
So
chime in if you want.
I write open source software, make it available for everyone run it, right? I mean, this is anyone run it. One of the alliances here is the Cardano, the Armada Alliance, right? Running it on Pies. Let's get as many involved individuals as we possibly can. They can't stop us all, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely where I come from, even in the open source. Like I said, I've been around for a very, very long time, and I hear a lot of times some of the same arguments that like Microsoft used against Linux way back in the day and things like that. And I'm like, again, they're going to fight these fights, and the more of us there are, the stronger we are every time.
And this is where open source and decentralization go very well along, hand in hand, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for the answer. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
Awesome.
And so also, I just wanted to show this. I don't expect this. We've got links, to our stuff, to Docker Hub, how to install or how to run any of the Docker containers, all of that stuff. I sent that out in the chat, the link to this presentation. So the links are all in the presentation. So I'm not going to resend each one.
Perfect.
But
Cool.
Chris, I just want to say kudos for that answer where you said that you won't ever ask anyone for permission, because that's exactly how it should be when you're coming from the right place. You know what you're doing and you know why you're doing it. So it doesn't matter what anyone else says. You just do it without any apology or anything.
Gonna build it. Yeah, that's it.
Very good. That's the spirit. Great.
Love it. I love it. That's really good. Cool. Do we want to have a quick photo for Twitter? Everybody smile. 1, 2, 3, Cardano.
Yay.
Cool, got it. Perfect. I'm going to Twitter it out. Tweet it. That's the right name. I'm so old. Tweet it out. Awesome. Chris, you got it. Or you still have something?
No. That was it. That was it. That was the end.
That was amazing. Just the last question to this. With Blinklabs, as it is a company, people can book you probably for development, right?
Yes.
Just wanted to get that.
Yes. And that's what, like we're still doing work with Maestro. We're still, working with Maestro, and they have a lot of systems, again, built on top of our open source. But our primary focus, at least in the short term, is working on the open source. So you guys had talked about, and at the beginning, Catalyst Fund 10, we're now talking about what parts and what things we can do and get, in proposals for Fund 10. Our general thought process on how we've been doing our proposals is asking for, fairly small amounts of money to cover short amount of time, not trying to make huge proposals, and, putting them out often. is generally our idea. We got 2 out of 3 of them in the last time, and as everyone knows, once you get one in once, it makes it that much easier the next round, especially if you've delivered. And we closed out both of our proposals on time, all of that sort of stuff. So again, now we have a history of proven delivery in Catalyst to be able to show as evidence. So I think that makes it an even stronger case for getting further projects funded.
I'm pretty much amazed that you had the retrospect one getting funded. That's really cool. And I think people can learn from that maybe too.
Yeah,
so-
in both cases, we had the projects about 50% done when and remember, Catalyst funding was delayed a bit and things like that. So it took a little longer, but we had them about 50% done. And when we proposed them, that was how we proposed it. Was, like the first milestones are this, and they're done. You can go look. Like, here's the GitHub, go look, right? And then, we have these remaining milestones, and this is how long it's going to take us. And yeah.
Very smart, very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Crazy, just go on, just hop in. Open up your mics and just let's talk.
I wanted to ask permission because I'm a gentleman here in the United States.
Wait, how can I remove him? How can I remove him? You don't ask for permission here.
I am getting trolled, trolling myself. Chris, I love what you're doing, and I've already said this to you several times, but the build in public, pushing GitHub to Twitter every day, 25 days or 28, will it be 29 days today?
29 today, yeah.
So as as an open source advocate, man, really, you're leading by example. And I'd love for that whole challenge, all the funds going to that, be allocated to people that are building in public. Like, let's really do it and not wait for money to get the funds. So thank you for what you're doing. And everybody, please check out his Twitter profile and
Let me
and ban him, report him. No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna send you Blinklabs, but
Tracking spam.
Great.
Wonderful. So should we transfer to Sunny? Everybody cool with that?
Yes.
There we go.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Chris. This is going to be way less technical than your, but I'm not from a technical background. I'm from the hospitality industry. So my gig is people and ensuring that people are given the same opportunities in the world as everyone else. So the idea for Soundrig, let me just get the share the screen. Second.
Oh, wait, could be that you don't yet have the access, right? One moment.
I believe I do now. Done it. Can you see the screen?
I'm making you co-host.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, Soundrig is an idea that we had in 2011. This was something that was way before its time, because even though we had the need for it, the music industry has only got probably worse as technology's got better. We didn't have the tech to do what we wanted to do, right? So one thing that occurred to me in 2011 was, what if we had a world where music artists were actually paid a fair wage, a fair compensation for the music that they sold? My own personal friends who are music artists, so this whole idea was born from an actual need. And they were going through the same trials that other music artists do around the world, where, they were struggling to get a record deal. Even if they were being presented with deals, they would know they were being robbed blind. And without the record deals, it's very, very difficult for them to get a foothold in the industry and make actual money from what they love to do, which is make music. So then if that happens in developed countries, imagine what it's like for developing countries and artists from Africa, from Latin America, from Southeast Asia, to go through that is near impossible. Okay, so we wanted to create an ecosystem, a place where the music comes from the millions of artists out there who are normally underserved and completely forgotten about by the industry, rather than a music industry which completely focuses on a very small number of people who are already being marketed and already all over the place, right? So we wanted to flip the market, the industry on its head. And in case you're wondering, this is not stock photography. These are actual artists who have launched on Soundrig or are about to. And, you know, you've got people from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Tanzania, America, UK, Spain, you know, even Austria there. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. If you have a reggae singer from Austria, like who would have thought it, right? But I want you to pay attention to this lovely chaps at the bottom here. They're called the Golden Family, and we'll get to that in a moment. So, you know, like I said, so the problems that I discovered in 2011 were the fact that people couldn't they weren't in control of their music destiny, let's say. They weren't in control of the content that they were putting out, because the people who were trying to market them want them to look the same and sound the same as everything out there. That's why all music looks and sounds the same these days, right? And they weren't able to make revenue, make money to put food on the table, let alone have a music career. And also there was no variety. So, you know, there's all the music that was going through the same channels. So back then we decided to create this thing called Soundrig, which was the solution. And I got the name Soundrig from oil rigs. I mean, that was the analogy I used in my head. And the reason why I called it that, because oil rigs, what they do is they drill and they take raw material from the underground and they take it to a platform where it's refined. And then once it's refined, it's distributed to the world. So I was like, what if we could do that with talent, with music talent? What if we not drilled essentially, but what if we found music talent from the underground, which is the local areas, from the streets, gave them a platform where they could refine their sound and create a product which they could be proud of, and then help them to distribute it across the world. And like I said, in 2011, we didn't have Web3, we didn't have NFTs, we didn't have smart contracts, we didn't have the blockchain as we know it. Bitcoin was out, and I wish I had invested back then, but I know I had my eyes on it, but we didn't make the connection because we didn't know that was the tech that would be required, right? So I put it on the back burner for almost 12 years. And then when COVID happened, all the chips started falling into place, and I started watching videos of Charles, and I was like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. So the idea was always there. Now the technology had caught up with the idea. So I needed to get the final piece, which was the team. So I got myself into Cardano by copywriting through for people's white papers, for the blogs, for UX, UI, anything that I could do for almost free, basically. It was like I was a 37-year-old intern, and I don't know if you know what that feels like, but that was weird. But I was interning because I lost my career to COVID, right? I used to be a 5-star concierge in London. So anyway, so I got in there and I got into NFT Maker. What used to be called NFT Maker is called N Maker now. And then I built my team, and then last year we launched. And we launched with the premise of being a for-profit social enterprise. So the social impact part of Soundrig is part of the DNA. It's actually why we exist, right? Because remember, the whole point of it was to address the problems that my own personal friends were having 2011. And when I realized it wasn't just them, and then there's also this whole world of music artists who are being left out, essentially, I thought this is an opportunity to use the power and the love of music times by the force of the blockchain technology to actually do something for and create opportunities. So we've organized ourselves to come at that angle first, rather than just be about selling music, selling a token and making money for the sake of making money. Because I feel like that's the old world thinking coming into a space which was actually trying to get away from that. So it's quite ironic that we've got so many projects in the space which are doing exactly what's happening in the Web2 world, right? So I'll give you an example. I don't want to go through all of these, but Color the Blockchain is what they're doing is they're selling NFTs to raise funds for indigenous communities around the world to buy them computer equipment, which they can then use to create their craft into NFTs. And then they're training them how to mint tokens and stuff like that, create wallets and everything, and then how to sell NFTs. So it's basically a real world adoption, right? But for the people that can't afford to even have a computer in the first place. And I told them about what we were doing, and I basically made a contact in a refugee camp. It's called Kakuma Refugee Camp in Kenya, and they have 250,000 people living there. Most of them are kids under the age of 30, and they have immense talent, but they don't have any way of making the music or even selling it. So when I told him about our idea, where we're trying to help these artists, because they're registered on Soundrig, but they've been registered for 4 or 5 months, and they can't record the music to a professional standard. So we've teamed up with Color the Blockchain to create something that we've called a POD, proof of donation. And it's a new kind of token in the sense that we give it some utility. So our one is going to have a music track made by the Golden family, Miss Sambula from the Kakuma refugee camp. And the person who started this, his name is King Mizo, and he's a rapper from Vancouver. His wife is a filmmaker. So what we're going to do, so what he's done is actually mastered and mixed the track for them already. I'm just going to pull it up. This is real alpha. Nobody's seen this yet, so I'm happy to be showing you this, but
everybody close your ears and your eyes.
Sorry?
Everybody close your ears and your eyes. It's secret.
Where is it gone? Second.
I didn't know that there's so much behind it. This is beautiful.
That word. Okay, so this is what was sent to me just this morning, and it's actually a WhatsApp video. So just that works beautifully. Oh wait, there. I think it's can you see it? It's blurred out for some reason.
No, it's blurred.
It's a bit blurred, yeah.
I think that's because of my I'll show it to you after the thing, right? Because I think my background is blurred. That's why it's working on that. So anyway, we've got a proof of donation token, and what we're going to do is we're going to sell this token, and because it's proof of donation, the metadata will have everything inside it, show what wallet donated what and how much the value of it was. And once you've got these and we've raised the funds that we need to, he's going to fly over to the refugee camp with the equipment that we bought to build a professional recording studio in the camp, which is, I think, is going to be the first one of its kind in the world. Never been done before. And because he's an artist himself, he's going to record their first album collaboration with anyone outside the refugee camp. And we're going to sell that on the Soundrig platform. And anyone who donated to that in the first place, because we'll have the policy ID, we'll be able to then give them, special discounts or whitelisting for the album. It really, we're only limited by our imagination. So that's just one of the examples of what we want to do for social impact. But being a for-profit social enterprise, we will be actively reinvesting any money that we make into, once we have this as a test case, we've proven that we can do it. We want the industry and ourselves to team up and do this everywhere. So once we can prove we can do it in a refugee camp, I think there's no excuse for the rest of the world, right? So what we want to do is be able to give the people the power to live their dreams. Basically, if they want to be a music star, they should be able to, but it should be the market decides, not a record label or executives. And so our proprietary technology was a player. We built this as the MVP last year. We launched it. At the moment, I believe it is still the only multimedia player that actually connects to multiple wallets and allows you, and it recognizes video, music, and any digital data that's on the wallet, on the NFTs, and plays it for you. So that's just the first stage, right? The other unique thing about it is that it's encrypted. So one of the big things, as anyone that remembers 2011, was torrenting, right? There was people were torrenting like ridiculous, and people and the music artists were losing revenue a lot. And it still happens today. So all the music NFTs that you buy now, you can go to pool.pm and you can actually take the files off the wallet if you know the wallet address. And so we built into it a decryption key. So what we do is when the artists come to us, we put all their content together and we encrypt it. And the only way you can decrypt it and the only way you can watch it is on the Soundrig player. So this is the MVP. Next, we want to be able to allow this player to connect to MetaMask. And what that's going to do is allow anyone all over Web3 who's got a music NFT to come to Soundrig and, you know, connect their player and enjoy it for free. Because before now, you would have, you know, I mean, you know how many blockchains there are and how many platforms there are on each chain. And you have to have so many wallets and then download all the music NFTs from those onto your computer. So if you get rid of that, we'll be able to have one place where anyone with a music NFT all over Web3 can come and enjoy their music. But what they'll do then is they'll discover the artists that are launching on Cardano, on our ecosystem, and showing that what we are doing for the artists, right? So what we want is a cross-pollination, because at the same time as wanting everyone to come to Cardano, we are firmly believing that music is universal, right? It transcends borders, it transcends cultures, it's literally everywhere. You can't contain it. So why the fuck is it contained to each chain and each platform on a chain? It makes no sense. So what we want to do is give the music artists the opportunity to 5x their revenue. So at the moment you have 100 exclusive tunes is what we call it, and I'll get to that in a minute. 100 tunes on Cardano. But what if this artist from Africa could sell 100 of these exclusive ones on Cardano, then Polygon, then Binance, and then maybe a couple of others? That's life-changing money for them, right? It's life-changing money for anyone, anywhere. But the main thing is it gets them, they get money immediately and they can put food on the table today, right? And on the flip side, for music lovers, they can come to Soundrig and mint tunes on the chain that they like. So they're not confined to just Cardano. They'll be able to connect, you know, their MetaMask wallet and be able to mint from any one of the chains that they like, right? So that's what's coming. But at the moment, like I said, we are the only one that has this player on our platform. So Soundrig tunes. Tunes are our product in the sense that we wanted to get away from the narrative of NFTs, because it's been, let's be honest, the whole term NFT has been hijacked by all of these scam projects, and you know the narrative for NFT has just gone downhill in the eyes of Web2 and the rest of the world. So also NFTs is just the underlying technology, right? It was never really supposed to be the end product anyway. So we call them tunes because of the music element, and then the 3 represents Web3. But what they are multimedia music experiences. And it's another thing that I borrowed, let's say, from 2011 was from DVDs. Now, before streaming happened, everyone, like, DVDs were the gold for movies, right? Because what you did, you got a movie which was available essentially on any platform. However, you got content on the DVD which was never available anywhere, and probably still never has been. But you got like behind the scenes footage, bloopers, interviews with the cast, you know, outtakes, director's cut, etc. And so in 2011 I was like, I mean, we needed a new product because there was only MP3s and there was nothing that crossed the multimedia realm, right? So I think I got the idea from looking at my Godfather DVD cover, because I saw the bonus content that was in there. So like, what if you gave the music artists the opportunity to show their real selves? And this, remember, this was before social media was rife, right? So I was like, what if they could have an MTV style interview, or like have a video of them spitting fire in the booth, or, you know, a jamming session in the studio with their friends, walking their dog, I don't know, in the shower, whatever they thought that their fans would love, and then package that with the music and maybe some behind the scenes photography or whatever. So that was the idea back then. And I thought there was no reason why it shouldn't be the case now, because there still wasn't anything like it for music. So this is what we do. So we ask the artists to give us a minimum of 1 track, could be an EP or a full album. We don't control them in the sense that they are in complete charge of their music product, right? So what we say to them is, you could put the same music that you've got on Spotify, but to make it really special, why don't you do some stuff that's completely exclusive only for the fans that buy your tunes? So what they've started doing, and it's been quite amazing to watch, is they have taken on the creative director role. They've been recording themselves, recording a remix of a song that's already out there, and recording themselves in the studio doing that. So what they're doing is creating new music for their tunes, but at the same time, they're recording the content for that as well, and then putting that together and then selling that. And remember, that's encrypted. So only the people who are the true fans that invest in them will be able to see that. And it's essentially, that's pretty much it. So it's a product which is for the fans, and it allows for us to create other revenues on top. So anyone who buys people's tunes will be able to get, access to live events or metaverse concerts or merchandise or anything else that we want to do with them in the future.
One question, how are you dealing with the royalties aspect? Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that. Right, so here we are. So I don't know if you've heard of DAMU protocol. It's by a gentleman called Sessions Cruz. He's been in the music industry a very long time, and he's just created DAMU protocol. He's just launched it, and they are doing the music rights licensing and tracing and payouts. Now, what we wanted to do was keep it purely about the artists and the music, right? Giving the artist the opportunity to create money, earn money and create unique products, and just keep it as simple as possible. But then obviously you've got all these other elements involved. So our idea is to partner with the people who are doing that thing already. Why would we want to try to build everything when we can just focus on the artists, and especially the artists coming from underserved communities in developed countries and developing nations? So DAMU, Soundrig is going to plug straight into DAMU, and they're going to track all the music and all the music rights for the artists that are coming through us. On-chain records is our first multi-chain or cross-chain collaboration. They're really cool. They're creating vinyls, like the original vinyls, and they're pressing them on chain. So what they do, they put a NFC chip, in the center, and that's connected to the NFT that an artist releases. They've been doing that on Ethereum. We're now bringing that over to Cardano. So all the artists that launch with us, they have the option to add 1, 5, 10, however many they want, to a specific number of NFTs. So for example, if they're selling 100 tunes, 10 of those tunes will come with a vinyl, and they can then auction it off. They can whitelist it and give it as a prize, whatever they want to do. The only issue at the moment,
That's cool. Nah, I love vinyl.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves vinyl, right? And it's like, it's bringing that digital. I know everyone's calling it that, but it really, we need to cross the bridge. We need to create a bridge for people in the real world to come over to Web3, and things like this will do it, right? Out There Studios are a film and music studio in the UK, and they're doing something really cool with I can't really say too much actually, but they're going to be creating some festivals, and they're doing their own social impact connected to prison reform, prisoner rehabilitation, and they're going to be bringing that. So I can't say any more than that, but we're going to be working with them to give like Soundrig as a platform for anyone who's coming out of prison, who wants to be a music artist. Maybe they were before they went into prison, to then give them a new lease of life, basically, right? And El Cam Studio, he's a personal friend of mine. He's been with me since 2011, believe it or not. I went to him first when I had the idea, and he loved it back then, but we couldn't do anything. So when we were launching last year, I went back to him. I was like, Leon, it's happening. And he was like, what? And I was like, it's happening. And then he understood. And so he actually brought on 3 of the artists that have launched with us already. And he's focusing on grassroots artists, right? So people from local areas and he's giving them, he's producing for them, and then he's mixing and mastering for them, much lower costs than professional studios. And then obviously it makes sense, so it works hand in hand. So we're all about collaboration. I don't think anyone out there who's ever created anything that's, you know, world changing has done it by themselves, right? And this Web3 technology, I mean, is the intrinsic value of it is the fact that it's for the people. So I don't believe it should be shared by any one company or any one platform out there. Everyone should have a share and a stake in this. So that's the angle we're coming from. The roadmap looks like this.
Can I have also a question?
Yep.
It ties in that what you said before. With the different chains, does it mean that I, as a buyer, buy one track and then can I migrate it to over the other chains, or do I have to repurchase again? How does that work?
This is down to the tech. I mean, I know there's lots of bridges being created at the moment, and but the EVM to non-EVM tech, I don't think has matured to that level yet. I think Milkamida is doing something quite heavily on that side, and we want to explore that for sure. But at the moment, I think the fact that everyone is still on the blockchain is very tribalistic in their own spaces. I think it makes sense to just have the option for people to mint, you know, one on each chain if they wanted to, or just stick to the chain that they want. But you know, we are native to Cardano because we believe in the ethos, like you said, Chris, earlier, right? We built on Cardano, and I waited for Cardano actually because we could have done it before in Ethereum. And I didn't want to because of what Ethereum was and what it stood for, and the fact that Charles left them to do his own thing and start from scratch, right? And do it the way he did. So we will always advocate a Cardano, but we also don't want to, you know, be like policing people and telling them that they must do something, right? It's not about that in Web3. So in answer to your question, possibly in the future.
Yeah, I think they're stored in IPFS, right? Probably currently.
Yeah. So our ones,
so
they're encrypted before they go into IPFS. And so we can do that with each one with slightly different technology on the EVM chains, but it's the same principle. But the issue is going from EVM to non-EVM and vice versa. But yeah, so the ones that are in white are what is left to do. We are in MVP mode still, because for the last year, all I wanted to do was ensure that the tech worked, ensure that the concept was proven, and get traction, and actually ensure that artists wanted it. And also obviously iron out any kinks and bugs and stuff like that, which, you know, we generally have to keep doing. You know what it's like, Chris, and everyone else must know what it's like with tech, right? It's a constant headache. But it's one of those things that we wanted to ensure that we had right before we start building further. So right now we are talking to some interested parties who want to invest in the future of Soundrig and help us go from MVP to where it needs to be. And that's all, you know, the elements I told you about: multi-chain playback, multi-chain minting, and then, you know, the rest of it, marketplace, etc.
I would have a question. If you could go back to the roadmap. So I see that the primary sales under number 2 is already there, but the secondary sales is not, let's say, active and under 4 marketplace. Does it mean that the traditional marketplaces like JPEG Store, for example, are not compatible with the logic? Is it required?
No, they are compatible. In fact, you've just caught me out there. We should actually green that. Our white paper, sorry. We had it since we launched that we wanted to create our own marketplace.
Oh.
However, because of the lack of funding and, you know, collaboration with other players, is gone ahead, and other people have done it instead of us. So the beauty of it is we don't have to do it because somebody else has already done it. So that actually should be green, but it's not green by us, if that makes sense. Like, we have our marketplace, but there is a marketplace out there, and yes, the tunes that the artists launch on us are they can be sold on the marketplace, which is by the record store as well, and JPEG store as well. Yeah. So thank you for highlighting that. I guess I just got used to it being white. And so here's the revenue remuneration. So basically, I just want to show you guys how we're doing it. So the music industry, I don't know if you know, but they have always apparently only paid artists 20% of a deal, which I found ridiculous. Like, how can the music creators only get 20% of what they make, right? But apparently this is how the industry has always done it. So we wanted to flip down its head, and we try to figure out what's the least amount that we can take from the artist and the most that we can do to survive and keep the operation going. So 20% is what we landed on. Very early, we discovered that a lot of music artists just want to make music, right? They don't really want to deal with the Web3 bit and onboarding process and stuff like that. And therein lay an opportunity for people who are not musically gifted but want to get involved, might already be in the music industry, to onboard. So what I've been doing is on a one-to-one basis, teaching people, most of them have been music artists, some of them not, and showing them how to create a wallet, showing them how to do metadata, showing them everything about Web3. And what they've done is then they've taken what I've taught them to start teaching artists and bringing them on board. And what the artists are doing are happily giving them 10% of their revenue, because they don't have to do anything apart from make the music. So the good thing about this is the opportunity will always exist, because there will always be artists who just want to make music. But for the artists who do want to do it themselves and are interested, they get 80% of the revenue. If they allow someone else to do it, they get 70%, which is still the lion's share. Okay, that's our main thing. So they must get the lion's share, and as long as it's 70%, then everyone's happy.
That's cool.
This is great.
And that's a very small but talented team. Nan is in Vietnam. He's the one that developed the player. Quintin has been in the space for a long time, and I connected with him because he did something for Cardano for Ukraine, and he raised just under $1,500 for Ukraine, and gave it. And I thought, if there's anyone who's going to be a partner of mine, it's going to be Quintin, because he did it from the heart. So I knew he was coming from the right place, and his connections in the Cardano space was a lot more than mine, put it that way. So we quickly connected and got together. And then I don't know if you know Theoscape. He's a producer. He's been in the music industry for 20 years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's our CEO, and then Rodney Prescott he works actually at the Cardano Foundation, and he's like our industry advisor, and that's it.
Wow.
Any questions?
I think Quasar is also with you in the team.
Yeah, I'm gonna say sorry to Quasar now, because that is also an old slide and I haven't updated it yet. So I'm sorry, Quasar, but there's something that I need to fix. He's definitely part of the team.
That's good. Awesome.
Exciting to see all those things developing in Cardano. Love it.
Absolutely great. Yeah, I think you explained it so well. I just can say everybody has to go to Soundrig. I was pretty amazed now what you all have in there. I just thought, wow, that's an amazing. I sound like Ben Gersel at the moment. That's just a really cool project. I call it Spotify on Cardano. But that background, that's just great. That's wow. That's really wow.
Thank you. I'm sorry if that took too long to explain, by the way.
No. All good. And yeah, bye, Chris. We're going to wrap it up in a second anyway, because we all have to leave. So this is just great. I can say it differently, and maybe you can take Chris's approach and go to Catalyst as well. I mean, you've done something. Right?
We actually went to Catalyst. I mean, the reason why we didn't get the Catalyst is the reason why they actually said they needed to fix it, right? There was a lot of heavy, let's say, competition in the music space in Fund 9, and because of the way it worked, there was one project that got 120 million upvotes and we got 120 million downvotes. And I was like, we've only been out for 2 months. Who hates us that much? It's like, what the hell's going on? But this is the way that fund worked, and that's why they obviously had to fix it. And I'm glad they're coming back now. So we were meant to complete our roadmap with the funding from there, but it didn't happen. So we just dug in basically and kept going, kept building, and most importantly got the artists. Thank you. Got the artists coming to us and at least prove the concept, like I said, and the technology with what we had, right? So it's all self-funded, but we'll be going for it again for sure in Fund 10 now that we've shown people what we can do and we're here to stay and what we're trying to do as well. Yeah, so we'll be applying for Fund 10 absolutely.
Great. You got my word.
Thank you.
So, and any questions? Otherwise, we're gonna wrap it up. I think that was wonderful.
Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing about your project. And yeah, excited. I hope in one of the upcoming meetings we can have you back.
Absolutely. No, thank you for the invite for this one. Once we get our social impact initiatives on a roll, I would love to come back and show you guys how we've done, what we've achieved over there in the refugee camp and everywhere else in the world as well.
Great.
Absolutely. Wonderful. That's great. And for everybody who's been asking himself, when is the Fund 10 starting? It's 21st of June. So get prepared. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Enjoy the family.
Bye-bye.
And have a great time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So we stop the recording. Thanks again.